So today is a great day. This is School Choice Week. In a few hours down at the Capitol, starting at noon, you're going to see thousands of kids celebrating school choice. It's a wonderful sight to see. They were really brilliant. The Georgia Center for Opportunity, a great group we work with closely, host this event. It's always so darn cold in the mornings that they decided to move the event to the afternoon, right when the snow is coming in, unfortunately. So hopefully we'll still have a lot of those kids. And it's so important, school choice, because it's one thing if our experts or we go testify at the General Assembly, but it's a whole other thing when the kids and the parents come testify. And we talk about changing people's lives, and there's no other issue where you can see the life-changing aspects of policy than school choice. And we today are really lucky because we have probably the foremost experts in this area in our state here with us today to talk about it. You've seen their bios on our invitation. I'm not going to go into that. Dr. Eric Wearne, Dr. Ben Scafferty, and Jim Kelly are going to talk about the whole panoply of school choice, from digital learning to charter schools to vouchers to education savings accounts to tuition tax credit scholarships. Georgia, we're lucky because we're one of the few states that has really all of those options. We can improve them and enhance them, but we really have done a good job. Now we're ready next year to use this window of opportunity to move to the next stage. So I'm going to get things started and ask Dr. Eric Wearne to come on up and give our first presentation.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me out today, Kelly, and nice to see everyone. So I just have a short time to kick things off, so I will just give a quick overview of where I think we are with charter schools and online learning in the state, and what might be some needs going forward. So on charters, we're at kind of an interesting moment in Georgia. In some ways, things seem to be going well on the surface. We've seen a couple of charters close over the past few years. So without any kind of judgment on why, I think that's a sign of a maturing charter sector, right? If they stayed open indefinitely, they'd be no different from any other traditional public schools. We have some big systems like Fulton County who are trying to get in on the cachet of charter schools by setting up their charter systems and really trying to devolve and decentralize some of their control to local school sites. The potentially really big item that Georgia charters have going for them now is the fact that the voters approved this resurrected state charter school commission in 2012. So petitioners can now go directly to the commission for their approval and funding rather than just being completely at the mercy of their local school systems that they're trying to compete with for approval. So on the surface, things are looking okay with Georgia's charter school sector. But there are some issues that might be kind of hindering the growth of charter schools in the state. So that last point I noted as a positive was a commission, but I'll also note a few hitches with it at the moment too. One of the reasons people opposed the charter school commission was a fear that they would open the floodgates to hundreds of new charter schools and just lay waste to the school systems around the state. That pretty clearly hasn't happened, right? The commission is still managing the state charters that existed in the previous incarnation. I think one has come through the commission over the past year. So they've done some training recently, I know, for petitioners. But that leads to my second point about the charter market in Georgia, which is that we're losing the national battle for talent, right? One reason there hasn't been a flood of great new charters is because there isn't a file cabinet somewhere in someone's house with a big stack of great charter schools that could be opened if only the local boards would just get out of the way, right? It's really hard to open and start a school, and a lot of the petitioners who start it are doing it it's a labor of love and totally volunteer work, so it's their second or third or fourth priority in their life. So, I've reviewed a lot of petitions for the commission in its past life, for the Walton Foundation, for other groups, and there just aren't a whole lot of petitioners and founding groups that are ready to go and open a multi-million-dollar school. It's just a hard thing to pull off. So the way other states and cities and organizations have tried to attack this is by setting up charter school incubators. So the state of Tennessee, through Race to the Top, actually set up a charter school incubator that is trying to pull people in from around the country to open charters in Tennessee. There are lots of nonprofits around the country that have a mission to open charters in their cities. And then there are groups like Building Excellent Schools that actually train people on how to open charters and found them. But they're directing their talent to places like New Orleans and Nashville and Memphis and Charlotte because they perceive the ground to be a little more welcoming there than it is in Georgia. So we're missing out on a lot of people from around the country who have the ability to start charters but aren't coming here because they're going to other places. So I think the commission would be a great way to kind of address all those things, but it's not the only way. You know, you can think of others. Just really quickly on online learning, I think Georgia is actually doing well here in some ways too. The Georgia Department of Education runs something called the Georgia Virtual School, which offers online credits for a fee. Several months ago, DOE opened the virtual school they opened up their content to anyone in the country to have access to their course materials, which I think is a great move, right? The internet doesn't stop at state lines. We're in kind of this Wild West, I think it's a healthy Wild West phase where people are experimenting with what's the best way to do online education. Ed tech companies are starting up and failing all over the place, which I think is a good thing, right? We're in the throes of figuring out how to do this the best way. And so the last thing I'll mention is that Governor Deal's task force on online learning released its recommendations about 6 weeks ago. And there are some good things in there, like, for example, the concept of creating a fund to generate new programs and ideas. But that document is really a big picture document, so I think it would be good to see some group hang a little more meat onto the bones of those recommendations. So that's where I think we are on those, and I will cede the floor to Dr. Scaff.